back, was you excited when this started? Okay, I should say, what were the talks between you and Kyosho? Like, what were some of the goals when you first got with Kyosho? Because I kind of thought you was going to fall into more of a team manager type role. I don't, maybe you are to an extent, but I think you did about a year on your own as their top driver. And then you guys got, well, maybe 2 years, because you got bumped on the team at the end of 2023, if I'm not, then into 24.
Yeah. I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 years on my own, but yeah. Well, actually, we had Spencer Klein too. He obviously doesn't race or travel as much anymore, but he was there that first year, I think. And but no, I was just, they wanted me to do what I've been doing, just be helpful on the internet, creating videos, content, and just helping to create setup sheets for the cars, and show them at all the big races again. Get some results, and there wasn't anything specific like to be a team manager or anything else. It was like, go be a driver and do what you've been doing.
Cool. Now, you were at Kyosho kind of still when it was, I hate to say relevant, but still to its 2007, 2008, it was still a major brand. Like when I say major, like people, I don't think people who are kind of just getting into RC would never really, we'll never see the dominance that we saw with Kyosho back in those times, in the 90s, the early 2000s up to the 2010s, where you would go to a track and you just, it would, I mean, wow, in the early, in those times, in those 2000s, it was mostly Kyosho and Nguyen. There was a few brands. So when you got into Kyosho this time, what was some of the, was there anything different? Because one of my things I said was, I think Kyosho relied on legacy too much for a long time. Like, we're 8-time world champion and all that type of stuff. And I think that's one of the good things. Yes, you still have that legacy. You will never erase that, but it's not the focus, right? So maybe tell me, what were some of the things that you maybe noticed that were different when you came back after such a hiatus from the brand, from 2008 to 2022?
I guess, kind of what you're saying. Back then there was only just the 3, 4, 5 major brands, at that. And so it was much easier to have a larger market share of the cars at the races. So when I was the team manager there, we'd go to an event and we'd have 4, 5, 6 tents and 30 people under them, and it would be packed out. And so now obviously I'd be coming back and I'm the only one at the race, or one of just a couple drivers, and we have 1 tent maybe, or no tent, and just using whatever's available at the track. And so trying to build it back up, show the image again at the track, at the races, that the Kyosho can still be competitive at the events. Obviously for a couple of years there, people were saying the car wasn't competitive anymore. And I think some of it might have just been no one to develop the setup and get it right. And so like when I came out, signed in for 2022, went out to the DNC and finished like top 5 in 2 of the classes, and TQ'd around in Truggy, I think, in the last round. I had the car for a month. So just kind of, the car still had the pace and the ability, just needed the right setup, I think.
I mean, since you've joined them, your results have been impressive, and rejuvenated your career, I say all the time. All right. I know I'm retracting, but you said Kyosho International, and then you have Kyosho America, and then you have Kyosho Europe. Maybe you can explain to myself and the people listening what's the difference between those 3 organizations, because it's similar to Mugen, if I'm not mistaken. They have a Mugen Seiki main company, Mugen America, and then Mugen Europe.
As far as I know, just like the international team, especially back in the 2006 to 8 range when I was there, was the guys that got to travel the world to all the major events. They would go to the Kyosho Masters, and they would go to, from America, they'd go to a European race or so, something big. And like if it was just Kyosho America, you're kind of just the regional guy, or just the US. And so that international team, that's what you want to be on. You want to be able to go to all the big events everywhere, wherever they may be. And so now I'd say, the international team, I don't know if they even have really what they call an international team anymore, but Kyosho America, every once in a while, will work with Kyosho Japan, who will have us go to the Kyosho Masters like we did, last week, or have us all go to the Worlds. And then Kyosho Europe, I think, is the primary one that takes care of Ricardo and Savoia and Marco. And
and you know what, Savoia, to an extent, Kyosho has rejuvenated his career. Obviously, he's not getting the results that he used to be. And for people that don't know, Savoy is a 3-time European champion, world's finalists. He's no slouch, but he's able to. I mean, he's been making mains with the Kyosho. He's not making every main, but I think he's kind of fell back into a more type of working with Kyosho Europe because it's in France and supporting the team and doing things there. I actually reached out to him for some information about this as well. We're going to have him back on her because it's been a while since he's been on her as well. But Kyosho's always been good in Europe to an extent. Maybe not to the extent that it was years ago, but it has a strong following in France. It has a loyal following around the world, right? But it dwindled quite a lot in the USA. Obviously, we have so many different chassis, the sponsorship game, all that type of stuff. Once you got involved in Kyosho, how much longer after that did you start to see some changes and starting to see more cars coming around? Because it kind of like having you there rallied the troops in the USA. Because Mr. Hanneman came to me about 2 years ago and he goes, Lefty, I heard you think that Kyosho is going to be bankrupt or we're not going to be here no more, but I'm going to let you know that the resurgence is real. Like he was the one who told me about that. So shout out to Mr. Eric Hanneman, by the way. So how long after joining Kyosho did you start seeing that type of switch?
I think right away had a lot of people that Kyosho, like we've said, has a really loyal following too. So guys that have been in it since the late 2000s, they stuck with Kyosho. A lot of people that go to Kyosho stick with Kyosho for life. And so a lot of them kind of were reaching out to me like, so happy I came back. And then almost like they started racing more in a way. And so there's a couple of pockets in the US that are very big on Kyosho, like Eric, he's in Indiana. His region, they got a number of Kyosho drivers that race in that Midwest area. And so there's pockets that are really popular, and then started showing some results. And Little Bump comes on, and then he kind of has a lot of guys that follow him in the South, and starting to show that young kid, old guy, both go fast with the car, and
very fast.
Make a good team. And I think people are just excited to have us race in the car, so they have somebody to root for at the races. I think that's a big part of having a pro on the events, is because you have somebody to root for and it excites you to go race and try their setups or whatnot. And more and more people are coming on board and enjoying the car. It's known to be easy to drive, so I think that's something that people really look forward to.
How is it with Bump? I've known him for many years. He's 14. We all put this pressure on him and be the next Masami and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, just let him be a kid and enjoy life and do RC cars. I like him. I like his dad. I think he's incredibly fast. He's getting older. His voice has changed. He's getting taller than his dad, and he's growing up in front of us, right? How is it working with him?
It's great. He's super calm and chill for the most part and well-mannered. Absolutely. And it's been good. John's pretty good at setup. They struggle to get to the track enough because they're in Louisiana. They have to drive 8 hours, say, to Thornhill or to Mike's in Houston. So they don't have any really good tracks to test that really, really local to them. So it's rare for them to get much track time. But as they've learned the car, his dad's pretty good at setup because he's been around RC forever. And he left Kyosho back 20, 30 years ago as well. So he was really excited to be on Kyosho. And so it's been really good to have them having kind of eyes that he can watch Bump's car and make setup changes. And a lot of what works for Little Bump actually works for me too. And we can kind of share setups and work with each other really well.
Yeah. Have you ever heard John's story? Have you talked to him about him coming to America and all that stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane. It's insane. It's you don't know what's going on with people in other countries, but I'm glad to see them going over to Vietnam, right? That's a country I want to visit so bad. It looks so beautiful. I want to go there. So he's going over there and he's racing and all that type of stuff. And it's good to see because he's got to see his home country, right? And
I'm sure they've been doing a world tour recently. They went to Vietnam and then they went to Japan, visited Kyosho Corporation in Japan, and they went to South Korea for a couple of days, then flew to the Kyosho Masters in France, and then went back to Vietnam for a week, and they're probably coming home maybe like right now.
Really awesome.
Yeah.
I like Phi. I like the wins, Phi Long, and I'm trying not to call him Little Bump too much anymore because he's not little no more. He's getting big. So you gotta find a new nickname for him. I like the what did I call him? I can't remember. I gave him a name the other day. something samurai or something ninja. I can't remember. I don't know. Me and my nicknames, I got them confused. I have to go back and look at that post. But good. I like Bump. I like him. I like him and his dad. I like what you guys got going on. He's fast. He had a good Silver State second. You know, that seems to be his race.
Yeah.
He's really good at Silver State. Really good at
That's
that.
good
race.
there. Yeah.
And good stuff.
He'll be good at Thornhill too, I think.
Oof, that's next week.
Be good at Thornhill. Yeah.
Oh, great segue. I know we're bouncing all around the place.